June the 4th, sedges. Early summer is the best time to get to know sedges, as the majority of the 50 or more in London are mostly in flower or fruit. These flowering plants often get missed or ignored, as they have no flamboyantly coloured petals or sepals, just tiny floral parts hidden away in either a compressed, usually dull-coloured flowerhead or attached catkin-like to the flower stem. Fortunately, the arrangement of flowers on a flowerhead is highly variable. They can either be compressed at the end of the spike, branched, pointing upwards, downwards, or hanging as they often do in clusters. Although a definitive identification often involves looking at their fruits, their various different flower arrangements allows for some field identification. Many look like grasses, for example the cotton grasses, Eriophorum species, and others like rushes, for example the spike rushes, Eliocharis species, club rushes, Scirpus species, and bulrushes, Schonopleptus. The largest and most typical group are the true sedges, Carex species. If confused, one way of helping to identify a sedge is to just roll its stem between your thumb and finger, as many are distinctly triangular in cross-section, and you can often feel the three edges. Most sedges show a distinct preference for wet, impoverished soils, and should be looked for in marshes, bogs, wet meadows, wet woods, and the edges of ponds, lakes, and rivers. The few that do prefer drier, sandy soils can be found in dry pasture, heath, or along the sandy edges of the estuary. Adding fertilizer or draining land soon sees most sedges disappear. They often have tough, coarse leaves which provide little nutriment to cattle, which consequently usually avoid them. However, typically man has found other uses, such as drying their leaves and stems to make baskets, thatched roofs, and even wrap around wine bottles. More recently, it has been discovered they can be good ecological indicators. For example, the thin-spiked wood sedge, Carex strigosa, indicating ancient woodland, and the brown sedge, Carex distica, indicating an old flood meadow. The most noticeable and widely seen sedge in London is likely to be the pendulous sedge, Carex pendula, due to its large size, up to 70 centimetres wide and 1.8 metres high, and its long, graceful, drooping catkin flowerheads. It is so popular, it is commonly seen in gardens and even planted around one of the ponds on Clapham Common as an ornamental. It is less often seen in the wild, but can still be found in Lesners Abbey woods. Another common sedge is to be seen on any walk on chalk downland. This is the glaucous sedge, Carex faca, which can often be picked out by its bluish leaves. In woods, the wood sedge, Carex sylvatica, has bright green leaves and long, stalked flowerheads that tend to get noticed beside paths, and it is often the only sedge to be found. In more boggy areas, you might expect to see the silky snow-white cotton flowerheads of cotton grasses. In Dickens's time, the whole of North Kent marshes, which he often walked through, were probably covered in these dazzling white flowers. Now there are so few boggy areas left in London, they take a bit of finding in either Epping Forest or on Keston Common. In drier, more sandy situations, you might expect to see the spring, hill, or sand sedge. The earliest to flower is the spring sedge, Carex carophylla, 5 to 15 centimetres, which has red-brown, club-shaped flowerheads and can also be found on roadsides and in dry ditches. The pill sedge, Carex pilulifera, is larger, up to 30 centimetres, and has more egg-shaped flowerheads, reminiscent to some of medicinal pills. The largest is the sand sedge, Carex arenaria, up to 40 centimetres, which is usually noticed as a line of plants joined by one rhizome binding the loose soil where it grows together. All three are also sedges of dry heathland. Around some ponds you may come across the common spike rush, Eliocharis palustris. Like other spike rushes, its flowers are compressed into arrow-like tips at the end of its stems. It can be found in Frey's farm meadows. The remote sedge, Carex remota, shows a preference for older woods and the edges of spring-fed streams within them. It has bright green leaves and stalkless, well-separated flowerheads. The bristle club rush, Isolepis cetacea, with its compact flowerheads set along its stems rather than at their ends, has an odd habitat preference. It is often found where cattle have left their hoofprints in muddy fields or even where humans have left theirs along woodland paths. Few sedges can be called beautiful, but the black cypress and great pond sedge are exceptions. Fortunately, the black sedge, Carex nigra, is not very common. It has bluish-green leaves and neat upright flower heads, with each black spike having a central green midrib and clear membranous edge combining together to produce a highly attractive pattern. The cypress sedge, Carex pseudocyprus, is first noticed for its unusual yellow-green foliage and then its clusters of neat, bristly flower heads. These are uncomfortable to touch, as are its sharp-edged leaves. However, its roots, which taste of ginger, could well have been eaten at Nonsuch Palace, where Henry VIII lived there. It can still be found growing in Nonsuch Park today. The great pond sedge, Carex riparia, always attracts attention when it grows in dense patches beside water, especially if its flower heads are covered in buttery yellow anthers. It can be found at Yeddingbrook Fields. Other sedges that may get noticed this month are the false sedge, carnation, and hammer sedge. The false fox sedge, Carex otrabi, forms dense tufts up to a metre high beside roads, hedges, and ditches. It produces dense clusters of persistent yellowish-green flowers which have a silky appearance. It can be found in Perivale Wood. The carnation sedge, Carex panacea, is a little smaller and a lot rarer. It is worth looking for in damp meadows. It gets its name from its blue-green leaves, so similar in colour to those of true carnations. The hammer sedge, Carex hirta, occasionally forms large noticeable patches in parts of Walthamstow marshes. It is easier than most to identify, as it has hairy leaves, a character not at all common in sedges. Some of the easiest of all sedges to identify in the field are now sadly gone. The flea sedge, Carex publicaris, had flowers uncannily like fleas, and the star sedge, Carex echinata, flowers that were perfectly star-shaped. The unusual name starved wood sedge, Carex depauperata, was called at one time London's rarest sedge. It was believed to have hung on in a wood in Charlton till it was stolen by all people. A botanist wanted to complete his herbarium.